Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Rule 34 podcast, Season 3. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Castillo.
And Giovanni.
Alright, so we are back. How have the two of you been?
Have been pretty good with some new experiences to talk about and a wish to share on the podcast. Nothing else, nothing more. It's been a pretty good week. How about you, G?
It was yesterday. I went to work. It was a very good day for me because I outsold everyone, like the rest of the employees, and it felt good. And I got a huge bonus, right? I got like $100 extra because of it.
Wow, nice.
It was good, man. But the thing was, can we talk about how humid it was yesterday?
It was very
humid. Whenever we have AC in the store, and as soon as you put an inch of yourself outside of the door, you just felt like the intense humidity, and it was awful.
I actually had an odd experience because I wasn't in LA. I was out in near Whittier. It started raining for I want to say 5-10 minutes, and then it just stopped. That only made it worse because then it got even more humid right after the rain.
Yeah, humidity's a lot worse than heat.
Yeah, I think there's 3 levels in a sense, quote unquote. It's there's normal summer heat, and then you either go one of 2 routes from there. It's either you get humidity or you get dry heat, and both are just complete hell. I expected when I went on the trip, I expected Arizona to be more dry heat, but for some reason it actually wasn't. It just kind of felt like normal, it wasn't unbearable. But in California, it's depending on what area you go to, or even just whatever time of year, it's you can get either one, where it's it's either really humid or it's just really dry. What about you, Dom? What did you feel about the heat yesterday?
It was pretty hot. Yes, in the morning especially. While walking to work, I didn't even wear a sweater. And usually I try going for the more shady sides of the streets with trees and buildings to block out the sun. And then when I got there, holy dude, I was sweating my ass off. It was not pleasant knowing that I have to use multiple towels. I'm not even sure the amount of sweat I had. I don't even know if it was the amount of towels I used. I don't think that's normal. I might have a problem, but it wasn't that bad. Afterwards, and the notice of the rain, I didn't even notice it was raining outside at some point. But I didn't notice it as too much compared to the morning and as to the afternoon. Yes.
And you talked about going to work. Is that at your new job or still Tumbies for now?
No, yes. It was at the new job. It was an interesting ride, I'll be honest. It was, a first for me, going, I guess, into a more larger corporate job. It's the Levy Restaurants. That's the name of the company. At the Crypto Arena, formerly known as the Staples Center. I applied for the runner position, and it pays pretty good, and there's also tips as well. First time walking in there, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty nervous, but I try not to show it too much because it might, I guess, insinuate a bad behavior in terms of them not seeing, I guess, my true potential, or me being, I guess, vulnerable during the job, during the hours of work. But nonetheless, they accepted me. They said it was completely fine to be nervous. But dude, walking in there, man, it was insane. So where I work, it's where the luxury suites are at. Basically, the top balconies where one would go into the Staples Center, there's little rooms in each of those balconies. And within the balconies, there's a whole, kitchen-wide table. There's TV sets, there's couches, place where we can lounge in. And there's also a huge, a club, and there's even a club in there in between the suites. And I'll be honest, from that view, looking down to the concerts and to the games, because this Friday, last Friday, there was a concert on I think it was the group band called the Luminous, yes. And then last Sunday, yesterday, there was a game versus the Sparks versus the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I don't really pay much attention to the games, but knowing that I'm this close and I could just like freely look at it, and not only that, usually how breaks work is that we begin the day off with a break. So everyone will go get their breakfast. We begin off like at around 3:30 in the afternoon. We usually wait until like the food becomes ready, the food arrives, and then we can start like handing out food to the guests and the end of the suites. However, usually it's slow during the mornings, and so if we have any time, usually which is our break, 30 minutes, we could take the time to just stay in the suites for around those 30 minutes and watch what's going on in the meantime. Mind you, these suites cost like around $2,000 each minimum. So that's like for the lowest level, the worst pricing, the lowest amount of guests you could apply to. But that's $2,000. And knowing that I could just stay up there for 30 minutes and see the concert going on, or like anything or any event that's going on for free, it's like it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna send you guys a video of how it is, but I've yet to take a video because for some specific events we're not meant to take videos. So, for example, like the WWE, before any event starts, they've told us to not take videos because obviously they don't want us doing that, and that, that's illegal. And the same thing for like concerts and such like that. Sometimes they don't want celebrities to have their photos taken without permission. Which is us in the background taking photos from hidden spots, usually from the balconies and other such. So I'll show you photos, but not yet. But the runner position isn't as so bad as I think it was. It is a bit confusing at times. It's mostly just moving food from the kitchen down to the suites, and it's pretty easy. Although a bit confusing when it comes to like the amount of orders and the specific complexity of each order. Like for example, it's not gonna straight up just tell you, oh yeah, bring in like 5 Coronas and 6 Bud Light. It's gonna say, oh yeah, this suite wants the party pack of 6, and this other suite wants the around the world pack, which doesn't straight up tell you what it is. You have to look it up and see what each package contains. And not only that, but also bring in like let's say someone orders a Caesar salad, you have to bring in the like Caesar salad and plates and forks and all that stuff. And if you forget about it while you're already sending the money, the food over down to the suites, you're gonna get a lot of slack for that. But aside from that, it was definitely an interesting experience. Walking around, seeing the guests, and in terms of tipping, I've heard that some people have received like thousands of dollars in tips in one night. So it might be possible to get huge tips over here. And yeah, that's been pretty much my experience at the crypto arena. It was pretty huge. Funny enough, this whole entire week, as of this recording, I don't work at all at the crypto arena. I only worked for last Friday and yesterday, Sunday, because there's no events scheduled. So basically, whenever I work is whenever we have a schedule, and there's not a single day of work for all the way until the 9th of August. So it's going to be a pretty slow day. But in the meantime, I'm still going to be working my old job, just so I could, continue on the monies, and but also, continue along with school and all that stuff.
Interesting.
But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
That sounds like a really, like, obviously hectic job, having to like, kind of in a sense memorize all the stuff, memorize all the product names, so that like what exactly you're doing each time, and then, where you have to go each time,
Agreed.
But it is like how you said, it does seem pretty interesting, especially the fact of like being in such a huge arena like that. Like you'll catch glimpses of whatever events are going on. Obviously your main focus is going to be work, but like it's still crazy to like be one of those like staff members in that event.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. But like the team members they're pretty chill as well. I don't want to make any assumptions, but some of them even drink on the job responsibly. Of course, they take their small sips in here and there. But it's all mostly just jokes. Like everyone's just jokes around. It's not like serious. However, they have noticed that when it comes to like Lakers events, huge concerts with like rappers, I think this September or October, Kendrick Lamar is gonna be on stage at the crypto arena. So I'm gonna have to get ready by then, or else if I'm not prepared, I might slow everyone down, and that's a very bad thing.
Yeah, I can tell you for sure that's probably gonna be a hectic night.
Sometimes we get like free food and stuff. Usually, if it's ever left behind, or if there's just extra food laying around, and there was cakes. There was like a bunch of cakes, like a bunch of dessert items, like cakes, chocolate cakes, velvet cakes. There was like these deluxe Rice Krispies, and like bags of Skittles and M&Ms, and all that stuff. I asked about what were the prices of these things, and for us it was free because it was just left behind. It was extras, but to the guests, a single slice of a piece of cake with like 3-4 layers, $15 for a slice of cake, and knowing that I'm getting a bunch of these slices for free, and the guests have to pay $15 per slice. And not only that, but like a single beer, I think it's like around $20. It's absolutely insane how these prices go up. And not only that, but not only that, but every time, while I was working yesterday, I see like the desert card attendants, because I don't work the desserts. I see people constantly coming over to get a piece of cake, but I mean, knowing that each slice is around $15, it's crazy.
That is pretty crazy, but like I've come to expect that if you look, especially at like when it comes to the MLB, the prices at those ballparks are just insane. Like the stuff they'll charge you just for like a single food item, a single drink is like honestly pretty crazy. But hey, the people are more than willing to always do it, which is also another crazy factor to me. But I guess now is the perfect time to transition to our main topic. I don't really have a good segue for it, but Gio proposed the idea to us. I mean, the general idea was just, hey, let's talk about some of our hobbies that we've had, And what kind of came to my mind in this sense, because it's also like something that kind of relates to the podcast as a whole, is that I don't know about you guys, but when you look at all the stuff we've covered when, recording this podcast, I can guarantee you that maybe a good, like, I don't even think I can say a good, like, 90%. Like, I want to say almost like the entirety of this podcast, everything we've ever talked about, I couldn't have seen myself talking about us like such a topic or like such a thing, like at any point. Like if without the podcast, I would have never seen myself, talking about different albums, different, animes, and all that. Yeah. And similarly, a lot of times we as a people in like the grander scheme of society, we a lot of times have hobbies that we don't usually share with others, that we don't talk about with others, and that's down to a thing of, maybe we don't have people with similar hobbies, or we don't get a point in time to express such hobbies, or even in the grand scheme of like, when you look at like I wouldn't say like appropriate, but like there's certain like hobbies out there that are like looked down upon in the sense of, people think it's childish or they think it's weird, such and such. And so this is basically kind of just basically what the point of this whole podcast is a point to discuss such things that maybe we would have never had a chance to express. Because I know for a fact the three of us all share different, well, we don't share different, we all share the common factor of, I know for a fact all three of us have hobbies that none of us share with probably anybody. I don't know if that really makes sense, but
To add to what you just said, there's even those situations where you might be like in a group or like community where you share kind of like the overall same hobby, but like when it comes to like specifics, there might not be enough people to talk about it with. Because an example is in my server, everyone in that server likes K-pop, right? But only like maybe 2 people talk about the music videos. And since I'm very passionate about into like music video production and like VFX, CGI. Whenever I want to like talk about certain aspects of a music video, the most I get is, yeah, I thought that was cool too. You know, you can't really like express yourself properly because there's no one to talk to about it with, even if we all like K-pop. So there's also that too.
So, who wants to go first? Consider it like show and tell. Dom, you go first. I volunteer you.
Yes. Okay. So, one of my hobbies I really love doing on the side is like 3D modeling and PC building. For those who don't know, 3D modeling is a process of using web programs and websites like Blender and other such to basically render and create models. You know, basically from basic things from like donut-shaped things to like cubes, triangles, pyramids, and upgrading that onto more lifelike things. So like architectural vases and anime figures and other such. And what I've been doing on the offside is essentially modeling like anime figures, because as of recently, I'm pretty sure I've said so, I recently bought a 3D printer, which basically can like almost recreate and create like very like from the smallest detail like an anime figure. And I'm thinking to myself, what if there's like an anime figure that's yet to be been even released down to the public, or is just simply too expensive to buy it. Like, let's say, you know, those 300, 400, like, you know, 1/4 scale figures that, you know, they're like in the hundreds. So I'm thinking to myself, why not just recreate that? And sure, like the majority of the effort is the painting itself, but I mean, I could just bypass that and just recreate what's meant to be in the hundreds down to like just maybe like a couple dollars worth of materials per se. And so I decided to, with my 3D printer, get some programs and start learning how to 3D model. And some of my first models have been very successful. I was able to print out this one character Lego sheet from Beastars. I tried painting him. It wasn't perfect, so I'm gonna perfect that, or I'm just gonna buy like an airbrush and you know and that stuff. And I wanted to create I guess a bunny figure for Joseph based off of the Kubbi from Nier Automata, and it's going pretty well. However, I just need the time because 3D printing is a bit dangerous. I'll be honest. Every time I have to 3D print, I have to have like masks and gloves, and I'll be honest, that's the toxic fumes that does come out of said figures is a little bit weird, I'll be honest. And so whenever I need to print, I need everyone to be out of the room, or just anyone not to be present within the household, or else they might inhale said toxic fumes and maybe contract lung cancer in 10 years. But I mean, this is why we wear gloves and such.
Are you sure it's not the material you're using?
I was not expecting that, to be honest.
Yeah, that came out of left field. What, are you sure it's like, is it the machine? Is it the materials?
It's the materials that creates the figure. It's called resin. It's called 3D printing resin. Resin.
Okay.
And I mean, this is why I take precautions. No, but in middle of the printing process, if one were to inhale the fumes that comes out, I mean, this is why I ventilate heavily. Like I make sure windows are open. I have a fan blowing air outside so that no one smells it. I mean, the rest of the world outside will smell it, but not us. I make sure that no one smells it. And so, you know, my parents are out, you know, eating, and my brother's just, you know, doing something else, and I have the cat, you know, not smelling it. It's perfectly fine, which is why there's like a process to cure the resin. That's what it's called, curing the resin with a ultra black light, just so the resin hardens, and at that point you can't get like poisoned by it. However, the figure in itself does come out looking pretty good. I've recently also 3D printed a figure that's yet to be released. It's based off of like the Azure Lane. It's one of it's like a mobile game, like a mobile shoot 'em up game, like based off an anime figure, obviously. And it almost came out pretty well. I'm still fixing on it. However, the figure itself was estimated to be around like $300 for like a 1/4 scale, and I'm here printing it for like around just a couple cents. And I think that's the magic of it, knowing you have the freedom to create or recreate. Sure, there'll be licensing fees if you try to sell it, but if you have it just for your own, your own personal use, for you to enjoy on your own, for whatever reason, you don't have to spend the amount of money, and you get to, how would you say, instead of spending the $100, you could, in terms of arts and crafts and all that stuff, you can, I would just say, have more appreciation of the creation that you make. And it's an interesting hobby. I'll be honest. It does take time. It's not easy. I had to look a bunch of videos just to do this stuff, and it's pretty expensive. I'll be honest. The printer itself isn't as expensive. It's like $150. However, it's the materials, the constant materials you have to constantly buy over and over again, because these figures and these like little projects I'm making do take up a lot of the resin. However, in place of that, I do get very accurate, like down to the millimeter, on the on said figures and other such. And yeah, that's been pretty much my hobby. Oh, and also like PC building. PC building has been my hobby ever since I bought my first PC back in December, and I've been like heavy on like PC stuff and like hardware news and all that stuff. I built my brother and I taught him how to build a PC, and it took him like around 4 hours. We started like around 9, or was it? But anyways, it took around 4 hours. And I'm not gonna lie, Jack, I understand that PC building may not be your thing, but there's also such thing as a small compact form factor, and these PCs can be like very how would you say like very huge in terms of like power and 4K details and all that stuff, but like into small form factor. Like imagine like a how would I say this in terms of an analogy? Have you ever seen like those small little turtle boxes in which one like a little small turtle can live in, or like how would you say, like a little small hamster habitat? If you catch my drift.
Basically, it's like it has the power of a really good PC, but it's very compact.
Very compact, yes. So technically, a PC can fit in your dwelling.
We'll see. I've been meaning to build one. I'm waiting to see what happens in terms of like moving or like getting more space.
Yeah.
But I real quickly want to say before I move on to ask Gio to elaborate on like one of his hobbies. I want to elaborate on this so that nobody. I don't want anyone thinking things about me. Dom had simply asked me what character I wanted a figure of, and I told him to be. At no point did I ask for a bunny suit figure from that. That is 100% Dom's choice, even though many times I've told him not to do certain things like that for me. That is
in the process. It's in the process.
Not my taste. I don't want people thinking things of me. Anyways, Gio, what was your hobby, or what do you want to elaborate on?
I just want to comment on what you just said. The fact that you kind of panicked isn't helping your case. Anyways,
I am not panicking.
And one of my hobbies, or my main hobby now, is video editing, but not in the sense of just like reconstructing the video, more of just on the sides of adding VFX, sound effects, CGI, and all of that stuff. Basically through After Effects and sometimes Blender. And the main reason I got into this hobby was because of K-pop and some music videos that they produce. I watched one music video and then like it just instantly burned this fire inside of me, and ever since then I just kind of been trying my hand at recreating effects that I see in music videos, even movies sometimes, it can be quite stressful, or like it was very stressful in the beginning because you have to learn an entire software from top to bottom and kind of create this creative mindset in order to be successful, I guess. Because when you have like footage, you kind of have to think and decide what would look best for it. And I think it's been like a year now. Over the year, I've definitely gotten better at that, which is interesting because ever since high school, when we were like basically obligated to take an art class, I really struggled with being creative. Like, it just wasn't something I was good at. But I think it was just like the medium that made it difficult. Having to like draw or paint something from scratch, following a criteria, is what made it difficult. Because now that I have like my own liberty and I actually like the medium that I'm using to express my creativity, it's a lot more fun and easier, you should say. And I should kind of explain what VFX is. Basically, whenever you watch a video or a movie and you see like explosions, lightning, like in the new Thor movie that came out, like all of those like lightning bolts and stuff like that, all of that's added in post-production. So the crew or like the studio takes maybe 6 months to complete a movie, and it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worthwhile if you can produce what you want.
I like what you said about in terms of like schooling. Like a lot of times, I don't know. Like I get, like I've always said, I get you need like a criteria for how would you say it? You obviously need a like general criteria to grade people on, but a lot of times it ends up being limiting because of like the fact of like, I don't know, it's like you obviously can't, when you have like a school full of like hundreds of students, it can't, like, it has to be generalized. But like the issue that becomes of it is that how would you say it, people have different skill sets, and so it's like when you try and conform them all to one skill set, it doesn't work out, or not that it doesn't work out, but you're gonna see like a ton of kids like struggling or being disinterested, and it's because of the fact that maybe things aren't to their liking, in a sense, like how you were saying, like, yeah, it's an art club, but it's mainly like or not art club, sorry, it's an art class, but it's focused on one sort of general media and not like very expansive, in the sense of like there's different, not levels, but again, there's different mediums of art, and people are always going to have different sort of preferences. Like some people will prefer to only work with like traditional methods, other people want to work with digital, and even then there's different aspects of like painting and simple drawing, using markers, using colored pencils, using watercolor paints, using oil paints, stuff like that.
And it's kind of cool because Dominic mentioned that he also uses Blender to make his 3D models, and it just kind of goes to show how two people who are in different, I guess, branches of digital art can use the same tools to do what they wish to.
I get that. Any other like hobbies or?
Yeah, I also am thinking of going into like paper crafts. I'm not sure if you guys seen this Tobin guy from TikTok. I think I've sent it. Did I? Anyway, what this guy does, I'm pretty sure you guys seen it, but he basically completely filled his whole home with like anime posters. Have you seen it, Jack?
Yeah, you showed us.
Yeah, and he did a life-size figure, but just based off like using paper of one of the Genshin Impact characters. So I'm thinking, I don't have to spend money on resin to make a life-size figure. So why don't I do the exact same thing he did, and researching and buying the materials as of not too long ago, it's gonna take me around like 68 to maybe like around 90 pages of this stuff. I don't even think I'm gonna have the time or the space to do that, but I wanna at some point make a life-sized figure. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. I don't want to pay the money to get an actual figure because these figures, as we mentioned before on the podcast, can go into the hundreds of thousands or in just thousands, from like 20,000 to around 30,000, 40,000. But it's gonna be my dream to maybe just ever so maybe get a life-size anime figure, either through paper, through resin. I don't think I'm ever actually gonna go through and actually buy one because the cost of owning a whole life-size anime figure, you could probably just buy a car with that and maybe just pay off, I don't know, rent. So I'm it's not 100% worth it. But if I'm able to at least somewhat recreate it with just like maybe $30 worth of materials, maybe, just maybe. Also, in terms of like 3D printing, I might think of buying a second printer so I could get like double the speed and double the I guess efficiency. However, it is going to be double the cost, and it's going to be bigger. So the 3D printers I'm talking about, it's called from the Anycubic Photon Mono M3 Max. The prices of these things, I'm not gonna lie, they're a bit much. The total with taxes, I think it's around like 1,100. I'm probably not gonna buy that because that's hella expensive. But it's kind of crazy how we've gotten to this point where we can recreate anime figs or just recreate anything up to a really high degree in terms of detail. And I mean, the only skill you really need is just, 3D printing. 3D modeling is one thing, but then having to paint it just without, one, could you leave it gray or like whatever color they have like their material on. But painting it is a whole other like hobby because I'll be honest, I cannot paint for the life of me. I want to learn how to do that, but I'll be honest, to paint, painting on canvas is one thing, and on paper, and using watercolors, but painting a whole figure, it's a whole different beast per se. I might get into it, I might not. What happened?
Do they have like 3D printers that kind of ventilate the dangerous fumes for you? Is that a thing?
It's kind of. But it's not part of the 3D printer itself. You have to buy like tubes and stuff. Oh, yeah. Basically, the 3D printers just ventilate air out from the back, but none of them have like let's say like a contained chamber where you could like disperse air out into like a specific region where you don't want to smell that. But aside from that, that's pretty much how 3D printing goes. The air practically goes all over the place unless you have like a huge fan like blowing air outwards onto like a region where you don't really care where it goes. So that's why I generally just wear like a hazmat suit. Not really a hazmat suit, obviously, but like a goggles, face mask. Not a face mask. What was it called? I think it's like a painter's mask, like where you like kind of like a gas mask of the sorts, but like meant for painting. Just so I don't, with filters, so I don't have to smell any of the bad toxic fumes. But yeah, it is pretty expensive. It is pretty, I guess, dirty in terms of like the many things that could go wrong. The resin itself, if it touches your skin, it can prove really, really bad because it's meant to be like an irritant. In other words, if it touches your skin directly and you don't clean it off within like the next 5 minutes, your skin is not going to look good afterwards. Yeah, that's the fun. That's the fun of it.
Talk about a dangerous hobby. Not only are you breathing in toxic fumes. My goodness.
Anyway, you said. I just want to say something quickly. Dom, you said something interesting when you were talking. You said that your dream was to have a life-size 3D model, right? And I also have a dream, and my dream is to use my VFX skills to work on a K-pop music video. Jack, in terms of your hobby, which you really should talk about, what is like your dream that you want to kind of pursue?
So my main form of hobby, and luckily for you guys, I wanted you guys to get your stuff out the way because funny enough, my hobby has prepared me for situations like this because the listeners can see there's 6 minutes 30 seconds left. my hobby has trained me for this. So my biggest hobby is podcasting and everything that goes into it. The script writing of it all, choosing and thinking of different topics at hand. And what really prepared me was the branch for sports, where, you know, originally when I started off, I was like covering just like either multiple sports topics or like, you know, just covering in like a general topic way of like, you know, oh, here's this event, let's talk about it. But as I started doing more and more episodes, I started falling in love with like the video essay format, where I have one specific topic, one specific story to tell from beginning to end. And though I don't have the editing to really like put in like the breaks and like the effects and editing that I want to for those videos, they still come out, you know, the way I like them, you know, where it's like I'm telling a story from point A to point B, and that story can be about a football team making it to the championship, a certain wrestler, a certain player in the NBA, a dynasty that happened in sports, you know, whatever. And then even on here, I don't do the video essay format as much on here because it's 3 people talking, but they're still, you know, formulated enough where it's like when we're talking about stuff, it I really enjoy. Well, the difference with the regular podcast that I enjoyed the most is kind of what I was talking about at the beginning, where, you know, I just love the fact that, and I've talked about it before on the podcast with Don too, I love the fact that for just 45 minutes a day, we can come on here and talk about whatever, especially because that whatever is likely something that I would have not talked about, you know, anywhere else. And that really helps me improve, both in the sense of like podcasting, but also just general life. The fact that, you know, obviously it's going to differ based on who I'm talking to, but it helps me with my socializing skills, that I can throw a topic at someone and hope that I can like improvise. And, you know, the best thing I've learned from podcasting is flowing from one subject to the next, you know, segueing from one to the other like that. I've gotten really good at that, and I really enjoy, you know, that whole lot. As far as what's my end goal, so I really do enjoy sports journalism the most. But the issue is, if I were to like, in the sense of like, you know, a traditional job of sports journalism would entitle, you know, it would somewhat be similar. Like, you're still going to be writing, it's going to be like an article format, which I have no issue, you know, writing articles. When I type up my scripts, it's basically like the article format, except it's not as professionally written, which I should really start getting more experience at, as professionally writing something that, like, you know, companies would like deem respectable in the sense to like post out there for people to read. But I don't know what my end goal is necessarily, because the format I want to do is very much how would you say, like content creation centered, you know. And I know that's not necessarily a viable end goal, because it's not like I want it to be my main source of like income and a job, you know, because that's very risky, and you have to get like really lucky on platforms like YouTube and Twitch. But like all the videos I've put out are like the ones that I've enjoyed the most doing, of like, you know, talking about these different storylines, these certain, you know, the ones I'm doing right now, because, you know, there's not much sports going on aside from it. I'm doing a lot of like wrestling heavy stuff, because that's another big hobby of mine that I've had my passion reignited for in like the past 3 years. But so like, you know, my end goal, in the sense, honestly, I would say my end goal is to just find a job that provides me the time and money to keep doing what we're doing here. You know, obviously, as life goes on, people get busy and stuff, so I don't know how much longer technically, you know, quote unquote, we have doing this, but we're still very young, so I wouldn't expect much things to change, hopefully. But my end goal is to just follow my dreams, in the sense of doing what I love rather than doing what other people want me to do. And what I love doing is podcasting with the two of you, podcasting with Mr. Solis talking about wrestling, and podcasting on my own, in the sense of, you know, being able to tell those stories from sports and right now mainly wrestling. Because, again, like I said at the beginning, if it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't talk about any of this stuff anywhere. I'm too afraid to engage online with people because they're very toxic and, can do stuff like leak your IP address, as Dom knows. I don't think that's ever happened to you, Dom, but Dom knows. He's seen it like online, like on Twitter. People get doxxed, they get swatted, so I don't mess with the online community. And I don't have many friends that share the same interests as me other than just video game. But that's my hobby. And thank you all for joining us for this episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. We'll see you Thursday where, again, sharing my hobby, I am going to be explaining to Dom and Gio the match between Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, and more so the feud that involved fighting for the custody of a child in a ladder match. We'll see you all then. I've been your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts. Thank you all for joining, and remember, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.